What you call a young man curious? Drawing on a beat and you know I'm serious. Podcast only need 30 minutes. Experience, but I'm new to this business. About to start a project dependent on acquaintance from new and old business. I thank God for the vision. Every episode, new wisdom. We just talking about real business, like how they making money and how they living. I'm just trying to do something different, cause I'm just a young man curious. I'm just a young man curious. Yeah, I'm just a young man curious. What's up, everybody? Today I'm joined by my brother, also one of my favorite people, one of the hardest workers I know, one of the most creative people I know, one of the strongest people I know. And so excited to be here with my brother, Josh. I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit. Tell the people who you are.
And just for the record, I'm his actual brother. This isn't like like the friend, that's like my bro. No, that's like actual brother. It's funny. One of my favorite pictures, let me find it for you. One of my favorite pictures ever is a picture of me holding you as a baby next to our grandmother.
A classic throwback.
Yeah, this one right here.
Yeah. You need to send this to me, by the way.
I'm gonna send it to you. But yeah, no. So I'm his actual brother. My name is Joshua Wilson. I'm his older brother, but I feel like Jorian is much more mature than me. So it's weird when I call him my younger brother because I feel like he's light years ahead of me. But I appreciate you having me, man.
No doubt, bro. And I'm glad you didn't drop me when we were younger. So I appreciate that.
The jury's still out on that. I don't know.
Yeah, but man, I really want to dive into a lot today. Like I told you. Really want to catch up a bit, get to know you more. I'm starting my project, but you've been in the game for how many years?
So, I originally did radio for 5 years, and I've been currently doing podcasting for 6.
Yeah, so a podcast pro. So I told him he's gonna help me navigate the combo today. But really, watching your journey with the podcast was inspiring to me as well to start my project. I'm just doing a project, so I'm only doing a set amount of episodes, and I'm out the game.
Well, you're doing the most important thing, which is starting.
Yeah,
like anybody with anything, I've noticed that the hardest part is just getting started because you got to get out of your own head, get out in your own way of like, man, is this gonna suck? Is anybody gonna care about this? Am I really as good as I think I am? So once you get out of that headspace and actually start doing the thing, right? Like that's the most important step.
And I'm gonna be real with you. My bar for success is very low. Like in my reasoning, I already hit success. Like once I put the bread up, I was in the game and I was gonna do something. So just me creating the project, whether nobody watches it or whether millions of people watch it, I've already hit like. Just doing it, putting it out into the world would be success. Of course, I want people to watch it, right?
Right.
But for me, it's really the opportunity to connect with different people like yourself, as well as people I went to school with or wherever I met them in my journey in life. And I'm really excited about this conversation because I know I'll get to know you a bit more.
Yeah.
I know that you my brother, right? And we've grown up not like living together.
Right.
But I don't know as much about you besides what I've learned from like your podcast.
My podcast.
I've learned more about you from the podcast and just having one-on-one conversations.
And you know why I think that is? I think it's because we have a lot of siblings, so when we all get together, it's not really a lot of time for you to really dive deep into what we have going on. It's I don't want to say surface level, but like we have a lot of people to catch up with. We crack jokes, we have fun, we're spending time with Dad and Miss Tammy and so it's like I think that probably contributes to why we know certain things. We know a good amount about each other, but we don't really know the deep details. So that's probably I think what it is.
That's a real point because, like you said, we rarely get together all together, and when we do, it's usually for like a day at most.
If that, yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. But talk to me about your upbringing, bro. I know you born and raised in Big Spring, Texas.
Yeah, I was raised in Big Spring, born in Midland, which is like it's all in the same general area of where Jorian is from, which is Odessa. I was born in Midland, but I lived in Big Spring up until I was 20, and then I moved out to Dallas, and I've been there ever since. But no, it was man. When I look at my life, especially at being 31, I turned 32 in a few weeks. when I look at my life, I just feel extremely blessed, man.
Yeah.
I feel extremely blessed. When I think of the mother I had, the father I had, when I think of the stepmother I had, the stepfather I had, when I think of the brothers and sisters, the friends, there's so many people who suffer in so many different ways in this world. There's so many people who didn't have things, and they just had so much adversity to overcome, and that's not my story, know. So a lot of people, it just makes me feel extremely blessed, when I really think about it. And so my upbringing was pretty. It was pretty good, It's weird. There's no crazy stories about like anything bad with my family, But I did what I would say the most, which we all kind of run into, is you have the bullying thing, and then you have the identity crisis of who you are and what it is that you're supposed to be doing and where you fit in, or just having this awkward phase of just feeling like you're alone in the world. So I had those things. But I always had friends I could turn to. I always had family I could turn to. I had like a really strong support system. I had a really strong mentorship at my church. There was a lot of strong black men that looked at me and really looked after me and really made sure that they poured into me.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of helped me have an advantage over a lot of people because I wasn't starting at a deficit.
Yeah.
I didn't, even with things like bullying or feeling out of place or whatever, I never really lacked confidence. Mm-hmm. I always kind of felt good about who I was and what I represented and what I could do. I'm not good at a lot of things. Like if it's sports,
self-awareness.
Yes, like I have a very good skill of being self-aware. If it's sports, do not put a ball in my hand. Do not expect me to make the last shot. Right. Do not expect me to catch anything. I'm gonna fail miserably. Yeah. Do not ask me to sing. But my family has a very strong musical gene. Basically, everybody in my family can sing, but me. Don't put an instrument in my hand. But if you put a mic in front of me, I'm gonna shine more than most people. When it comes to like gathering people, entertaining people, if you put me on the stage, that's where I'm gonna shine. Yeah. If you put a camera on me, that's where. So it's like when I realized what I was good at, when I realized where I shined, I took a lot of pride in that, and I've been building that ever since. I learned. I did my first play at 10, and ever since then, it's just been a snowball effect of just constantly growing and building and trying to be the best I could be at just entertaining in any facet that is. But it started out doing theater.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that. Before we get to that, though, because I know that kind of happens in like your high school years, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's where I took it really serious. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But before we get there, we had a counseling session early, and I don't want to get into counseling tonight, but do want to have a real conversation, right? So you and I both grew up in a household without our biological father, right?
Right.
What was that like for you? Because we talked a little bit about that. What was that dynamic like for you? Was it tough?
It was weird because, Dad and my mom got divorced when I was 2.
Okay.
So by the time I got to an age where I was aware of how things operated, them not being together was normal to me.
Gotcha.
So it's different from someone who's in high school and then their parents get divorced.
Right.
Like
definitely.
That's a totally, for me, I thought the kids who had both parents dropping them off at school were weird. I was like, why you got your mom and your dad here? Like it was
one person job.
Yeah, I was like, the only time it really hit me, and I don't even know if Dad remembers this. The only time it really hit me that they weren't together was when he moved.
Oh, from Big Spring.
Yeah,
that's right, because he was still in the same.
He was still in Big Spring up until I think it was 98, 99.
Okay.
I think it was 99 because I was 8, I believe, when he moved. And I just remember him telling me he was gonna move, and I just remember that really broke my heart.
Yeah.
I didn't. It took me a while to really work through that because, he was like my best friend, and even though my mom and dad wasn't together, I still saw him every week. You know, he was still there. So to go from seeing him every week to now, it's gonna be every few months.
Yeah. That makes a huge difference.
Yeah, so that's when it kind of hit me. And it took me a little while to work through that. But other than that, it was fine. Dad and I had a really great relationship. Still to this day have a great relationship. I've never had any real issue with that. And on top of that, what helps is that my mom got remarried when I was pretty young, so I always had another male figure in the house. So that was really helpful, and he was really, really, really prevalent in my life. He was very active. I always feel like it's kind of like a yin and yang situation. Everything that I learned from Dad, I didn't necessarily learn from Ray, but everything I learned from Ray, I definitely didn't learn from Dad.
Right.
And Dad used to make jokes about it. He'd be like, "Man, I'm glad you had Ray, because I wasn't going to teach you how to change your oil. I was going to tell you to take it to the shop." But, Ray would he taught me how to fish. He taught me how to change my oil.
Yeah.
How to change a tire. He taught me how to take a hit, because when I thought I was going to do football, I didn't realize that part of playing football was getting hit. And that's when I realized it really wasn't for me. Because, he was trying to toughen me up. So, he, would tackle me. And I just didn't like that. Right. So that really, it wasn't really something that I had a real issue with. The only time it really kind of affected me was when he moved.
Yeah.
What about you though? Because,
I would say I had a pretty similar experience. Because my parents, Dad and my mom, divorced when I was, I believe, 1. So I was super young and not really, obviously aware, and I never really struggled with that I can remember. My mom tells me there was this one time in school we had donuts with Dad or something along the lines, and I told the teacher I don't have no dad, but that's the only I guess negative experience. Similar to you, my mom didn't get remarried till recently, but I always had other male figures to kind of help me with experiencing life, how to tie a tie, so on and so forth. So yeah, probably a similar experience to you a little bit.
And I think this aspect of it will be really interesting when you get our other siblings on, because we all have totally different experiences with him. We got him towards the latter half, me, you, and then Delvin, our youngest brother. Our stories with him are totally different than our older siblings.
Right. Yeah.
So that's something that's going to be interesting. And so for me, I never had anything but positive things to feel about Dad. Right. And it's just, it makes me, you get a little bit of survivor's guilt, because you grow up around a lot of friends that maybe don't even know who their dad is.
Right.
Maybe never even seen him.
Yeah. And
so it's Dad shows up to have lunch with you one day, and then no one, and he's the only dad there. It's right. And I took a lot of pride too in the fact that Dad was well known in my community.
Right.
Because he was the only black preacher in Big Spring for a while. And so all of the African American community in town knew who he was. And if I went to Walmart and they was like, "Oh, you Pastor Wilson's son," and I used to love that. And I used to love having a father that people admired, and I would say that probably was the first little spark I had in seeing my dad on stage and with the microphone in his hand and a crowd reacting to him. I think that was the first time I really felt that energy, man, I kind of want to do that.
That's a pretty cool experience to be a part of.
Now, I didn't want to do the actual preaching part. I leave that to you. You know what I'm saying?
You wanted to shine.
Yeah, because it's but part of it was it's nothing negative. It's there's certain things that I think require real dedication and care, and I just think preaching and pastoring is something that needs to be taken seriously in a way that I don't know if I could do.
Yeah, it's a huge responsibility, right? You get to shine, right, because you're almost next to God in some people's eyes. But it's definitely a responsibility because you're shepherding people's souls, right? Which is, in so many ways, their blood is on your hands.
Right, because inadvertently, and I think people do this subconsciously, not consciously. You said it right. Like, you're next to God in people's eyes. Like, a lot. Like, there's people who, if let's say you have some scandal pop off, they may never go to church again.
Exactly.
Because they feel like, oh, I was following this pastor and he wasn't who he said he was. So is anything real? Like, so it's a huge responsibility.
Definitely. It's important for people to know, like, the pastor's not God. Like, you following Jesus, not ex-pastor.
But like I said, I think subconsciously people
they definitely
accidentally do that. And I've fallen victim to that. You know, I had a long journey of coming back to Christ.
Yeah.
Where there was like years I didn't go to church because of just certain things I experienced, and then I was able to build my own relationship with God for myself.
Yeah.
So now, like, church is just like a place of refuge. I don't really go for the pastor. Like, the pastor of the church I go to is great, but I don't go for him.
Right.
He sets the environment, but I'm gonna praise, God regardless whether you on the stage or not, bro. Right. Like, I'm here for my relationship with God.
Talk about that. Preacher's kid, both of us.
Yeah.
Talk about being a preacher's kid and then also navigating your journey, like you said, finding your way back, which I would love to. I was excited when I heard that on your podcast that you were, this year focusing on your spiritual health and getting back into the fold. Talk about that journey a little bit because, some people think it's a linear path and it's not.
No. You're like, I think, And the reason why I'm proud of what I'm about to say is because I think more people fall into the category I'm going to mention than people who feel like they're like right there hand in hand with God, which is, it's not linear. Like, I stumble. Like, I have moments where not necessarily like I have a shaky relationship with God, but I have a shaky relationship with consistency because, there's so many things in life that we give 100% effort to, and we forget that our relationship with God should be the main thing we should give 100% effort to. There's people who give 100% effort to their job, 100% effort to their career, 100% effort to their relationship or their marriage, and then I'll get to God when I get to God, and that's like the total opposite of how it should be. Like, it should start with God, and then everything else follow suit. And I'm not perfect with that.
Right.
I'm not. And I think it's just because there's days where I struggle with just certain things in general, and it just makes me put my focus in things that give me instant gratification. Like, focusing on my work gives me instant gratification. Like, I feel good because I'm a screenwriter now. And so I feel good when I'm writing. And so sometimes I wake up and I'll be in a bad mood, or I'll just have a bad day, and I just don't want to do anything but write today because it's the only thing that's going to make me feel good. And I'll forget. I typically start my day off with reading a passage, a daily Bible reading, and then I'll pray, and then I'll get my day started. But then there's days where it's like, yo, I'm not feeling it. I'm just going to go straight to work. And so I skip it. And I'm just working to just have to really figure out my balance, but starting my day through that, and then constantly building that relate. Like, if you're dating a girl and you don't text her throughout the day, she's gonna feel some type of way.
Right.
I mean, you don't think you should do that with God? Like, that's what I battle with daily. Is just that consistency and making sure that anything that I do is through Him, because I could be doing something that He don't even want me to be doing.
Right. And I think that's why the relationship is important, so that you have kind of that, you grow in that, right? You don't know everything that you need to know. You don't know all that He has for you, all that He has called you to once you start the relationship, right? That's with any relationship as well, right? You get to learn that person over time, and you're understanding and the dynamic of the relationship changes as you grow.
Right. And so for me, you know, I needed to get to a place where, and it's, you know, when we're kids, you know, I don't know what it was like if with your mother, but with mine, it was like I had to go to church every Sunday until I was 18.
Yeah.
When I was 18, she was like, "You're an adult.
Same.
If you're gonna go to church, it's because you're choosing to go. I'm not making you go.
Right.
My job was to give you the foundation, and now it's your job to build on that foundation."
Yeah.
And for years, I was like, "Oh, so I don't gotta go?" Bet. Like, I just did.
Hey, that's a free day, an extra day.
I was like, I'll be in the kitchen. I'll be in the living room, in my pajamas. Like, see you later, mom. Like,
Yeah.
I just, and then when I moved, if I'm being honest, I think that was one of the things my mom was, concerned about the most, was just because, you know, when you're no longer directly in your mother's care, they're gonna worry, but also she wanted to make sure my soul was intact,
Right.
because I'm in a totally different area, totally different influence from people that she doesn't even know exist yet.
Yeah.
And so I came here, and I was going to Dad's church periodically, but for the most part, I wasn't really going to church like that.
That's when you first got to the DFW?
Right,
Okay.
yeah. I just wasn't really going to church like that. I would go to Dad's church every now and then, but I wasn't really going like that. Just because I didn't feel like I just didn't feel it. And then when Dad got sick, it was hard seeing him like that at first.
Yeah.
It was really hard seeing him try to get through a sermon that way for a while for me. Right. So I stopped going altogether for a while. And that kind of made me feel a way, because it's like, you know, this guy's been preaching his whole life. Why did he have to
experience that?
Yeah.
Thing about that is none of us are exempt from life.
Right. You know, but that's something I learned later on.
Yeah.
You know, but at the time I was just like, I don't get it.
Right.
I didn't get it. I wasn't necessarily angry. I was just confused, and I just didn't know how to handle it. And so then there was this day I was randomly at Whataburger, and I was waiting to get some coffee because it was in the morning. There was this guy standing next to me who was waiting to get coffee as well. He struck up a conversation with me, and it was a nice conversation. And then just randomly out of nowhere, he was like, "Hey, do you go to church?" And I said, "Not really, but if I'm being honest, I have a desire to go back. I just haven't found the right fit." He was like, "Well, you know, I do one-on-one Bible studies. I would love to, like, you know, meet up with you someday, and maybe we can do that." And I tried it, and I really enjoyed it, and I really felt like I learned the Bible in a way that I never had before. I felt the connection with him, and I ended up getting baptized at that church eventually. But then they just started operating in a way that I didn't agree with.
Uh-huh.
They started kind of talking as if anybody that's not in this church house is condemned to hell, and you shouldn't associate with them.
You got into a cult.
Yeah, it kind of felt like, I didn't know at first that that's what I kind of got into, but it's because it started off like perfect. Like, me and the guy got along great. You know, he's really teaching me the Bible in a very, like, distinct way that I never had. Because, you know, me, I was always told you're not supposed to ask questions. So
that's such a weird thing too. For me, I feel like you gotta ask questions.
Right. And so when it was one-on-one, there's no pressure. So I was like, all right, bro, I got this question here. Tell me about this. Like, explain this to me deeper. So I was able to really grasp it, and I really formed like a brotherhood with him. And then, you know, and then I felt like it was right to get baptized there, and I felt like it was, you know, right to follow that path until they just started.
It took a left.
Yeah, it took a sharp left. Because it came out of nowhere. It's like, yeah, so we don't think you should associate with your family anymore.
Oh, wow.
Like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, like, or your friends, or, you know, I know your dad's a preacher, but he's been preaching it wrong his whole life, and he's probably, you know, condemned hundreds of people because they followed him. And I'm like, yo,
y'all tripping.
Y'all like,
what was their like belief actually? They were Christian?
They were Christian.
Some sect of Christianity?
Yeah, it was, you know, but they just started.
They were black or what race?
He was black, and there was black people in it, but it was mainly like Asian. When I started going to church services.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
They tried to get one of my friends like that too.
Yeah. And so
did they believe in like a mother god or something like that? I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
But see, we didn't get to that until after they sucked me in with like the one-on-one Bible studies, and then
it's not funny, bro. But
no, it's funny now.
It's not funny.
But they sucked me in with the one-on-one Bible studies, and then it just took a sharp turn, and it's like, wait, we weren't talking about none of this.
Yeah.
You know, it just.
But that goes to show the deception in that.
Yeah. And that really, it really scarred me for a while.
Yeah.
Because I felt like really
connected to them and trusted them.
Yeah, and they deceived me.
Right.
And man, I took that rough for a while. I was mad for a while about that. Not at God again. I've never been mad at God. I just was mad at things that I've always been mad at certain people who misrepresent him.
Right.
That makes me mad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I was just mad for so long. I didn't want to go to any church for like years. I was like, I'm not going to no churches. None. But then you can't, I don't think it's possible to truly escape who you are.
No.
It's just
you can try.
You can try.
Jonah tried.
Yeah. Like, it was just this nagging feeling in the back of my mind. Like, man, find a church home.
Yeah.
Find a church home. Just start there and just build from there.
Right.
You know, and excuse me. Eventually that's what I did. You know, I feel like it's weird. Like, my church is literally like across the street from where I live. Like, you literally walk downstairs, there's a venue across the street. That's where the church is every Sunday. And I don't know, like, when that nagging feeling hit me, it was like, man, just go to church. And there was this church down the way that I kept seeing that I was like, I'll try them out one day. And I was literally on my way there, but something told me, because they had people out in front of the venue across the street from my house with signs saying, you know, come to church with us, like, come fellowship with us. And I was like, something in me was like, turn around and go to that one.
Yeah.
Just, they're across the street. It's easier. Just turn around and go to the one across the street.
Right.
Try that one out. Something in me told me to do that, and I did, and I never left. I go there every week now.
Yeah, that's Social Dallas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Social Dallas, Pastor Robert Madu.
Yeah.
Associate Pastor Manny Arango, who is a beast. I love every time he speaks. And I've been going there since last year.
Well, definitely glad that you found your way back, man.
Yeah. It's always been a part of me, and, you know, thankfully, because even though we're preacher's kids, it's funny because when I tell people that I'm a preacher's kid, I always tell them, yeah, but the experience you're thinking of is not ours. Yeah. Like, they're like most preachers' kids, that their parents were strict and they couldn't go anywhere. They had but
ours was probably the opposite.
The complete opposite. You know what I'm saying? Like, dad was like real lenient in a lot of ways. He was real chill. He was really cool. Like, he wasn't strict in any way, shape, or form. Now, again, that's our experience. Like, the older ones
it might be different.
It might be different for the older ones, because, you know, they talk about like dad will whoop them. Dad had never whooped me, so I don't know that experience. Right. So it's like,
I've never seen him lose his cool.
Never. And I gave him plenty of reasons to lose his cool, and he never did. So I don't know what that's like. But yeah, so I think that's why I think what's beautiful about my journey is that it was never forced on me. It was always just like, you'll find your way back. And when you do, you're going to appreciate it more.
Yeah.
And I do. I appreciate it way more now because I made the decision on my own. I didn't feel like it's something that I had to do. It's something that I need to do for me.
Right. That's good, man. And I'm happy, and I'm happy that you're growing as well. And I think it's important to understand that it's not linear, right? You're gonna go up and down on this journey, but I think the main part is just working through it, sticking with it. I always tell people it's not easy, but it's worth it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, nothing great is. Nothing worth having is easy to have. I mean, that's why marriage is so hard for people who are married. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's work. It's work, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
When you have the right person. I think the most important thing in marriage and relationships in general is having a foundation of God, and that's something that I've always missed in past relationships, and it's something that I always knew I needed.
Yeah.
But it was something I was like, okay, we'll build there, because I didn't want to scare anyone off, and it's just something that I prioritize. My priorities were out of line when it came to that. Like, that should come first. Yeah. I realize that now.
Yeah.
A relationship should be built on, like, it should be built through God. And I think that's extremely important, because there's gonna be moments you're gonna look at your spouse and you're gonna want to, like, yo, why am I with you?
Right.
Like,
and be ready just to leave.
Just ready to leave. But the commitment you make, the faith in your relationship, and the faith in the person that God has chosen for you is gonna make you stay. Yeah. And it's gonna make you realize there's something bigger than you. And I correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that there's a quote that says God loves marriage more than anything.
I ain't read that one.
Okay, yeah, that's what I said. I said quote. I didn't say scripture. There was a quote I read somewhere. It's like God, or a pastor said it. He was like, nothing makes God happier than marriage, because it's two souls becoming one through Him.
Yeah, marriage is. I don't think that's a excerpt from the Bible per se, but definitely marriage is a reflection of the relationship between Jesus and the church, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's actually in the Bible, where it talks about husbands should give up their lives for their wife the way that Christ did for the church.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So side note for y'all listening, I am probably, out of all my brothers, I am probably the least versed in quoting scripture. So I'm working on that aspect of it. Right. Because that's something, like, I really, like, admire people who can just pull scripture out of nowhere. Yeah, no, that's what I'm working towards, that part of it right now. Like, that's why I have a thing now where it's like I try to do a chapter a day, and I try to, like, not only just read it once, but, like, throughout the day, read it throughout the day, so it sticks with me.
Right. I think it's important to memorize text.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
And so, it's just everything in life. I realize now it has to be built through Him.
Right.
And nothing really feels right unless it is.
Yeah, definitely. You feel like you're outside of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, let's pivot a bit, because we talked about your journey with faith, but I want to hear a bit more about your journey to finding, like, who you are and being comfortable with that, right? Because I know that, early years, maybe junior high school, are a bit tough, especially with you choosing the path that you chose with theater. Obviously not a very popular thing to do, but talk to us about that journey with finding yourself and then being comfortable in that space.
I mean, it took me a while to be comfortable in it, but I felt like I had no other choice.
Right.
I couldn't be anything else. Like, anytime I tried, it looked really uncomfortable. Like, it would feel uncomfortable. If I, like, tried to be, like, a tough guy, people would laugh.
Yeah.
Imagine, like, I remember trying to get in a fight, and the guy laughing at me, because it's like, Josh, come on, like, what are you doing?
Be for real, bro.
And then what I did next didn't help, like, because I was small. I'm small now. I mean, I'm small now, but I was smaller in high school. And I remember he was taller than me, and so I was, like, pointing up at him and yelling, and he was just laughing. And so I got a chair, and I stood in the chair, and then I pointed, because I could be eye level.
You were setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, so I'd be like eye level with him. And I remember one of my best friends, he's still one of my best friends to this day. He came over because he was bigger than all of us. He came over, picked me up off the chair, and carried me under his arm out of the cafeteria. He's like, yo, you need to calm down. Let me get you up out of here.
Yeah.
And I'm so small, like I'm kicking while I'm still yelling while he's carrying me out of the cafeteria. And it's just like being a tough guy was never my thing. Being in sports was never my thing. It's just anytime I tried to do anything outside of who I truly was, you could just tell. It's just that's not you. And so once I did things like theater and performance, and that's when it was like, okay, that's you. I mean, that's who you are. It doesn't matter if people understand it. It doesn't matter if people respect it. It doesn't matter if people pick on you for it. This is who you are.
Right.
And at the end of the day, you can only be who you are.
And be comfortable in that space.
Right. And so it was rough for a long time because there's not a lot of black people in Big Spring. And if you are black, more likely you're in sports. Or you're doing illegal activity. So being black and being in theater was like, what are you doing?
Right. So
it was a rough few years. And prior to that, it was, I mean, I was picked on consistently up until my junior year in high school. So from grade school to junior year in high school, middle school was the worst. 7th and 8th grade was like literally the worst. It would literally like you look at your watch, you're like, oh, okay, so they're about to knock me upside the head right now. Like it's, or like, really that wasn't even the worst part for me. To me, it was like the mental things. Like you go sit somewhere in the cafeteria, and no matter where you're sitting, someone comes over and says you're sitting in their spot, and if you don't move, they're gonna like embarrass you in front of everyone.
Right.
That's every crazy. Day. Like so it's just like I could even make sure I'm standing in the corner so nobody will mess with me. It's like, no, you're in my spot. And so it's just I had a real battle throughout my life of just being comfortable with who I am, because I didn't understand why who I was rubbed people the wrong way so much.
Right.
And this might be a cop-out, but I feel like a lot of it was rooted in a lot of them didn't know who they were.
Of course not.
I've had people come up to me over the years, old bullies, whatever, and literally say, I wish I had the courage to do some of the things you did.
Yeah.
And then it hit me like, okay, so it might make people uncomfortable when you're living out loud and they don't know how to do that.
Yeah. Definitely.
And so people want to dim that light.
Right.
You know, and I've realized that as I've gotten older. But in the midst of it, it was really hard.
I can imagine.
It was and
some really of the things that you're talking about right now and shared before, I didn't even know those things like actually happen. You know, I only see those on like TV shows and things like that even exist.
No, it was real. Like swirlies exist, people. Like there was literally, like, I remember freshman year of high school, we watched some 80s movie in class, and I remember the older kids in the class were like, man, I want to try that. And they literally picked me up after we walked out of the class. When they picked me up, took me to the bathroom and gave me a swirly.
That's wild.
Like, we just because it's like, oh man, I want to try that. Let's get Josh and so it's stuff like that, man. And it's so wild that when you're like reaching out for help, people don't believe it because it's like it sounds crazy. Mm-hmm. Like. It's like no one really takes it seriously because it's like no one would do that,
right?
So so now you don't even have anyone sticking up for you. You're just out on an island by yourself, and I would say that it took me a long time to work through that. Therapy helped a lot. We talked earlier about therapy. Therapy helped a lot with that, but it's mainly just because. Outside of what I knew I was good at, I didn't really have a lot of confidence in who I was because it got scrutinized so much. Unfortunately, it took heartbreak to get me there. I was engaged at one point, and it didn't go well. It ended pretty badly, and it just kind of sent me down a path of like, obviously there's something that is not intact,
right,
for me, for me to get to a place where this could happen to me. Because if I loved myself more, if I appreciated myself more, if I just established clear-cut boundaries and establish just what I will and will not deal with, I wouldn't be in a situation like this. So it just took a long time of me dealing with that, but also dealing with all of the things personally that led me to that moment of just, I have to shed all of this.
Right.
And I have to look in the mirror and say, what is it do I not like about myself? And that's a hard conversation to have.
And that journey took you from junior high all the way to like the last couple years of life.
Last year, I mean, it took me, I would say, I'm 31. I turned 32 next month. Last year was the first time I could definitively say I loved myself.
Wow. But the journey is worth it.
It is. To get to that point, it's very much worth it. You know, to not give up, to constantly work on yourself. Working on yourself is extremely hard because a lot of people don't want to realize that they're the problem. Nobody wants to sit there and say like, "Oh, I'm the reason why these things keep happening to me." Who wants to admit that? Who wants to acknowledge that? So it was just a long road of realizing like, yo, there's a lot of things in place. There's a lot of validation I'm searching from other people. There's a lot of love that I'm trying to get from other people that I'm not giving to myself. There's a lot of trust I'm putting in the world that I'm not putting in God. There's a lot of desires I'm acting on as opposed to what's my purpose and my path. And it took a long time to just really sit down in that and say, I'm going to figure this out, you know, and, I'm proud of myself for it because most people don't do that. Most people don't really sit and take the time to really figure out who they are, what their flaws are, what they need to improve on, and how to get to a place where you can look yourself in the mirror and be happy with what you see.
Right.
It's a hard journey.
Yeah. And I think that part of that journey that you're on is going to be benefited by you developing that relationship with Christ, right?
Oh, yeah.
Not only because you're figuring out who you are and who you want to be, but as you develop that relationship, you'll figure out who God says that you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe once you buy in and believe what he says about you, it supersedes not only what you say or what you think, but what others think as well, because the Most High has said something opposite of what the world wants to say sometimes.
Right. And you have to take that as law. That has to be the most important thing to you.
That's law.
Yeah. That has to be the most important thing to you. And that's even a hard thing because we all have desires. We all want to be loved. We all want to be liked. Right. We all want to, be admired. But when you get to a certain place in your life where you realize none of that really matters. Yeah. The only thing that matters is what God has for me and what I feel about myself. Yeah. Like anybody else that doesn't understand that, And I think a lot of people are afraid of losing people because when you go down that path, you realize there's people around you that do not need to be there.
Some people need to be lost.
Very much so.
Expeditiously, like T.I. would say.
There's a lot of people that you probably connected on something that was not good for you. Maybe maybe connected over shared trauma, addiction to something, bad habits,
right?
Or gossip. Like like maybe the only time y'all talk is about something that's negative. Like it's just, it could be anything. But when you are going down the path of trying to better yourself, man, like you start realizing that certain people can't be around you, and that's something that people are afraid of as well. Because it's like, oh man, I've been best friends with this dude for 20 years.
Push you out the comfort zone.
Yeah, but they're not good for you, who you are now and where you're going. And I had a friend who literally, we had a conversation just the other day, because he didn't understand that I just can't deal with him anymore.
Yeah.
And it's nothing personally against him. It's just, there's just certain things I can't do anymore, and certain aspects of my life I have to leave behind, and he fully represents that.
It's love, but love from a distance.
Right. You know, I can't remember where I heard this phrase, was like, everybody deserves love, but not everybody deserves love from me. So it's like, and I stand on that now. It's actually helped clear a lot of things up for me. You know, there's a Bible verse that I live by that I actually do remember. It's Proverbs 3-5. Chapter 3. It's I'm paraphrasing it obviously, but trust in the Lord and lean not on your own understanding.
Yeah.
That has helped me so much to just let certain things go, because I used to need an answer for everything. Like, it used to drive me crazy. Like, no matter what it is, I needed an answer for everything. And when I really internalized that scripture, it's like, man, there's going to be things that you can't answer. You just got to leave it to God.
Yeah.
And just know that it happened for a reason. And that's helped me out so much.
Peace.
Yes.
You can have peace in that. So you talked about, firstly, I want to say, sorry that you had to go through that traumatic experience with the bullying and stuff like that, but definitely happy to hear that you navigated that, even though it took years, over a decade, to get to the point where you are today. Definitely worth the journey. And I know even in high school, things started to pivot for you a little bit as you became more comfortable with who you are. I remember you talking about, I think you started rapping in high school a bit.
Yeah, there's a little bit.
CDs.
There's a little stint of me trying to rap. I didn't know this was gonna come up. I was trying to avoid it, but but no, there was a little stint. I tried to rap.
And hold on, I mentioned that because I wanna really delve into like the creativity that you have, right? And so I think rapping was some of the earliest that I knew, along with theater, of you stepping into that space. So that's why I brought it up, just kind of as an introduction to where we going.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I don't know. It was just something that I felt expressive through. I wasn't the best at it, obviously. But it just made me feel good. And it made me feel fulfilled at the time. So I really enjoyed it, and it really helped me get to a place where I understood myself a lot more. Because when you're writing lyrics and you're writing songs, you're writing your experiences and who you are and what you represent. And a lot of times it would be hard writing certain songs because I was only like in high school, so I didn't really experience too much yet. So you have to dig deeper in like being creative and who you are and what you represent and what you can talk about. And so it was a nice way to really learn just how to express myself in a particular way. And it's helped me out in a lot of other ways. Because I'm a researcher and a historian by heart. So just everything that I know about hip hop music through me doing it has helped me when I did radio and when I do podcasting now, because one thing that people appreciate about me is my vast knowledge of hip hop music. And so it helped me out in that way.
Just in general.
Yeah, music in general. But so it helped me in that way, because I'm someone that if I want to be really good at something, I try to learn everything about it. So I'm trying to rap, I need to learn who are the producers, who are the executives, like who made things happen in hip hop, who are like, and so just studying the culture and learning about how everything was created and formed, it helped build this vast well of knowledge that I have that, you know, that most people don't have.
Right. So talk to me a little bit about you got some bars you want to drop for us?
No.
What was your favorite bar when you were rapping?
Man, I am not going down that road. I feel like an addict. I have left that life behind, sir, and I will not go back.
Oh boy. Okay, so you rapped, crushed it in theater so much so that you had scholarship offers, full rides.
Yeah.
To various schools, I think, including Howard,
Howard, NYU, USC, UT,
wow. Crushed it.
Texas Tech, New York Academy of Dramatic Art. I had over like 20 schools recruiting me for theater.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. Okay.
That's why, like, I don't know if you noticed earlier when you told me you was going to be at the Fort Worth Convention Center, I had a big smile on my face because that's where I did my audition. So there was this thing called International Thespian Society that they had a conference every year, and my junior and senior year we had it at the Fort Worth Convention Center.
Okay.
So when I was a senior, I got to audition in front of, I believe it was 30 schools from all over the country would come, representatives from 30 schools, and they would see high school seniors perform a monologue, and they would choose if they want to recruit them or not. And so we did that. I did my performance where I ended up getting recruited by 20 schools at the Fort Worth Convention Center.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's dope. That's super fire.
Yeah, we would come down here and I would do that, and that was just one of the most magical days of my life because one thing I love about performing is getting to understand people that are nothing like you and being able to understand them, empathize with them, and live out their lives. So I did a monologue of a guy who ended up killing his wife. He was like abusive, and he ended up killing his wife one night after it went too far. And I just remember like really getting into it and really breaking down and giving it my all. And it's moments like that you just kind of feel like you're outside of your body, seeing yourself do something that you didn't think was physically possible. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's things like that I really enjoy about my life, is that moments where I could really dedicate myself wholeheartedly to something. Because I don't get excited about a lot. I don't get motivated by a lot. But the things that do motivate me, I give it everything I have.
Yeah. So the rapping and theater take you on this journey. You went to school locally, I believe.
Yeah.
You decided to stay close to home for a while before going to UTA. Where did the theater journey tail off?
So, ultimately, my main goal was Hollywood. Like, I did theater, but, like, you know, my goal was Hollywood. And when I got to college, I stayed locally because I worked with the theater professor at the college locally while I was still in high school. And I just knew there was something I was going to learn from him that I wasn't going to learn anywhere else. And thankfully, I was right. And what I learned from him was, he taught me technique and skill, and obviously, you know, I learned a lot of things in that area. But he taught me something that I think is more important that no other school was going to teach me, and that's humility. He went out of his way to humble the mess out of me. And at that point in time, it was something that was completely necessary. For some reason, I was extremely arrogant.
Rightfully so. You just got 20 scholarship offers to various schools.
Yeah,
you was that guy.
I was, but even with that, what he taught me was that really means nothing if you can't provide results, and you're not going to be able to provide results if you're too high on yourself. Because at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's about the production as a whole. It's not about you standing out and being the star of the play. It's about the play as a whole. It's about the production as a whole. And that's what he kind of drilled in me. Now, his methods were a little unorthodox, to say the least. There were a few moments where I was afraid for my life, you know, but by the end of it, I really understood, like, yo, no matter what you do in this world, it's not going to matter if you're not producing results. Right. Like, you could be a star today, but like, let's say you have a movie that bombs tomorrow, your phone stops ringing.
Yeah.
So you gotta, what's going to help you get through that is your work ethic and your dedication and, you know, your humility, your willingness to work hard. That's what's going to, you know, because coming off of 20 recruitments, I'm thinking I'm going to be this lead in every play. I wasn't the lead in one play my whole time going to college there. And I was like, what is going on? But he did that purposely. So that I understood that whether I have one line or I have all the lines, I need to treat it as seriously and as important either way.
Right.
So I learned that going to school locally, and I think that was very important. When I got to Dallas, I realized a little bit more how Hollywood works, because, you know, a lot of people who work in Hollywood, you know, through doing radio, like, you know, you meet a lot of people who work in both music and film, and you just learn a lot of things. And during that time, I was auditioning for like major projects, and I wasn't getting any of them. Now, some of them justifiably so, like it was horrible auditions on my part. But some of them I was losing, and then so I would have conversations with friends and people who I had connections with, and they would tell me straight up, like, man, a lot of this is just relationships, man. Mm-hmm. It ain't about how good you are. It ain't about, like, and they were giving me examples of people who got certain roles simply because they could make a phone call, or they were able to just get certain things done, certain movies made, or just whatever, because of the connections they had. And so I learned the time I could be spending in line for 10 hours at an audition, or, you know, going to theater class or whatever, it's time that could be spent making myself useful to someone who would want to help me down the line. Mm-hmm. And that's how I got into radio.
Okay.
Because being in radio, people, I mean, it's give and take. People want something from you. They want to get on the radio.
Right.
They want their artists to get on the radio. And if you get their artists on the radio, maybe they help you with something
else,
down the line. You know, because another thing that I learned is, man, you could be the greatest guy, but if you don't offer anybody any, like, if people can't feel like they can get something from you, you're kind of useless in this business. Mm-hmm. Not, I mean, kind of in life too, depending on how you look at it, but in the business, in Hollywood, in the entertainment industry, if people can't benefit from you, they're not going to help you.
Right.
So I kind of gave up school and just dove headfirst into being in the entertainment industry so I could build connections, build relationships, build equity, and build up my my ability to be useful to people so that I could leverage it.
So just to clarify, you left Big Spring. Is that when you stopped doing theater as well?
I did it. Yeah, because when I got here, I started taking film classes.
Okay, so you focused on film when you got here. Did the school thing for a bit, figured that wasn't the route for you, and then hopped onto the radio scene and doing all types of hosting events. Yeah. I remember one time, Destiny, I came out and you was hosting an event. You were like, the man, you got us in and everything, got us situated. Delvin was with us too.
Yeah, I remember.
That's too okay. That's cool, man. So, talk to me a little bit about the journey from the radio to now you're doing podcasting, working, and currently writing as well.
So with radio, like I said, I did that for 5 years, and for 5 years I was able to, like, basically anybody in hip hop and R&B from 2011 to 2016. I've interviewed, I've hosted one of their shows or parties or events, and I probably have some crazy story with them. But that's for another time. But what it did was it gave me a name that people recognized, and it built a reputation that was beneficial to me. And so when I left radio, I was able to use a lot of those relationships that I built doing radio to create my first web series, Matters of the Heart. Mm-hmm. which I wrote, produced, directed, and starred in. And really, everybody that was involved in that did it for free. And
which was dope, a dope project, by the way.
Thank you. I mean,
project.
I have my issues with it, but that's because it was no budget.
Yeah.
But it came out really good for what it was. And, you know, everybody that helped make it possible did it because of the reputation I built, because of the trust that I built, and because people just wanted to see me win. Because I was doing so much to help other people for years. 5 years, it was nothing but me giving and helping. I barely made money during those 5 years because a lot of it I did for free. Because I just wanted the experience. I wanted to build the relationship. I wanted to just help. And so when it came time for people to return the favor, they did, you know. And from there, I was able to get a few professional writing jobs. I actually had a film stolen from me that's currently on Netflix right now. That actually was pretty popular for a while.
That's a wild thing.
And when I saw it became like the #1 trending movie on Netflix. I got like real sick for a while.
Rightfully so.
I got like really sick. I was like, ooh, man. But it showed me what I was capable of doing. Mm-hmm. It showed me, okay, I know what I'm doing. Because I mean, yeah, I got this script and this idea stolen from me. They were able to change enough of it so I couldn't sue them. But even if I could, it's Netflix, so I don't really know how far.
It's a big fight.
Yeah, I don't know how far I would have got with that, but it showed me, okay, I at least know what I'm doing. Eventually, I got back in I started podcasting because I missed it. I mean, I did radio for 5 years, and so I missed that aspect of it. And it was just something that I wanted to do for fun while I continue my journey as a writer. So I started podcasting. The show is called Don't Take It Personal. Like I said, we're going on 6 years now. But it also allowed me, because I just do it for fun. It's not something that I'm trying to make like this big deal. I was able to still focus on my writing, and over the years, I've just continued to become a better writer, write more projects, flesh things out, and just continuously grow. Like, it's weird. I went through and looked at a bunch of my old scripts the other day, and they were horrible. They were really bad. But the reason why I enjoyed that moment is because it shows how good I've become.
Right.
That I can recognize, man, this is trash.
You've grown.
I've grown to a point now where, like, I'm proud of the work that I'm doing. And
you should also be proud that you did the work then, right? I saw somebody talking about, they're just talking about creating in whatever space, and they were talking about how I'm not as good as I'm going to get, but just give me some time. I'm gonna get better.
Because anything you want to be great at, like you're an athlete, you're a former athlete. Well, you're former, but you still look like one. So, so as an athlete, I'm sure you understand the idea of like just every day, like building to just be better. Like if you're a track runner, like you're working every day to shave a second off your time. Mm-hmm. You know, just get bigger,
literally a second.
Yeah, bigger, faster, stronger. You know, utilizing your mind more, the cerebral aspect of it. Like, you know, I was watching Creed before I came over here, Creed 3. And so it's just like boxing, like the cerebral aspect of like picking your spots and knowing when someone is weak, or like if they're doing something that you can utilize against them in the ring. And it's that thing you work every day to just be better. And that's what it's like when you do things creatively too. It's like writing, you got to write, you got to study other people's work, you got to study film. It's literally like I literally study film before I write something. Like I study like how they created a scene and how they put a scene together, like the nuances to the dialogue and the subtext and the story, that how they connected the story overall. So I literally study film like a football player does, you know, and it's just, you got to take it so serious, because part of the problem is if you're an athlete, there's no cheating it. Like you have to, like, the best wins. Mm-hmm. When you're doing things in entertainment, there may be things that are lower quality that get popular. or, you know, get successful. And so there's not a lot of incentive to be the best, but you have to want to be the best.
Yeah.
And that's just where I'm at with it, is I want to be greater every time I do something. And it's been a long journey. It's been a grueling journey. Pitch meetings are some of the most soul crushing things in the world. But you got to take those no's, you got to take those notes, you got to take that feedback, and you got to grow from it and keep it moving.
Right. Keep pushing. Speaking of greatness, before we wrap up today, I want to give you an opportunity just to talk your ish, man, to brag a little bit. One, because I'm proud of you. I know you've done a lot of cool things, man. So go ahead and tell us some of the things you've accomplished in the creative space and just life, period.
Okay. So
and opportunities you've had too.
I mean, I could talk about being recruited by 20 schools for acting. I could talk about having over 2 million streams on my podcast. I could talk about for 5 years on my radio show, I dealt from anywhere from Drake to Kendrick Lamar to J. Cole to Nipsey Hussle. Rest in peace. Today is like the anniversary of his death, actually. To Childish Gambino, I could, you know, or SZA. I mean, I could talk about having a movie that got stolen from me that ended up being a #1 movie on Netflix. I could talk about winning awards for my work. I could talk about winning awards for my acting. I could talk about all of that, but you know what's funny, man? If you would have asked me that question 5 years ago, I would have reveled in that. I would have been like, yeah, you know, I mentioned all those things because I'm getting to a point of saying, like, man, at this point, the thing I'm most proud of is my personal growth. Like, I'm most proud of my relationship with God. I'm most proud of my relationship with my friends and family. I'm most proud of getting to watch people that I love live their lives. Like, I don't think you understand how happy I am when I see you and Destiny and the kids. Like, it makes me extremely happy. It makes me so happy when I go to our brother Trey's house and Dad and Miss Tammy's there and Tiffany's there and the kids are there. I spent so much of my life trying to get to a level of success and to achieve certain things that I never really appreciated what was right in front of me. So I'm most proud of the fact that I'm able to do that now. Yeah. And I'm most proud of the fact that I've allowed myself to shed anything that I don't feel is beneficial to me. Like, if it's not about my friends, if it's not about God, my friends, my family, or my purpose, which is specifically my writing, I don't care. You know, like, there's so many things that happen in this world that bring people down that because they fixate on it, and it just, you know, it sucks you dry. I've been able to shed all of that. We talked earlier about how, like, man, I'm never on social media. Yeah. Because I don't care. It does, like, I don't care. Like, it has nothing to do with my bottom line. And people are like, man, did you see what happened on Twitter? No. I didn't. And I'm not rushing to see it either. Like, right. I've gotten to a place where it's like, I want everybody listening to this, no matter what it is you do or what it is you want to accomplish, really sit and visualize what it is. And then anything in your life that has nothing to do with that, stop doing it. Because it's irrelevant to where you want to go. Mm-hmm. You know, if you want to be in shape, pay real close attention to what you're eating, because you can work out in the gym all you want, but it starts in the kitchen. Yeah. I mean, you know that more than me, because like I said, you're in shape. I got pounds to lose. You know what I'm saying? Like, which I'm about to get like real dedicated to, because, you know, some of these projects I'm writing, I want to act in, and I do not want to look a little chubby on screen. I want to be fit. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to be like a bodybuilder like The Rock or nothing, but right. You know, I want to be in shape. You know what I'm saying? I got a few pounds to shed, like 20. But it's like I just need people. I've realized that anything that doesn't have to do with my bottom line or what my purpose is or what God has for me, I purposely avoid it because it's irrelevant. It's nothing but a distraction, and it's gonna do nothing but take up time that's needed to focus. And anybody that doesn't like that, I mean, they're more than likely not for you anyway. I have friends that I barely talk to, but they know what I'm working towards.
Right.
They know what I've sacrificed, and they know a lot of what I've done is I've given so much to other people without giving to myself. Mm-hmm. And at this point in my life, I've selfishly decided that I'm giving everything back to myself. And a lot of people get it, but a lot of people don't. And the people that don't, I don't know what to say.
Can't help you.
I can't help you with that.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. I was going to ask you one last question.
No, man, we can go as long as you want, man. Like it's
the only question I was going to ask you if you had any advice or closing statements for the people, but that seemed like a pretty good one. You could think about another one.
I think I can think of another one.
Hold it on though, because I'm not ready for it.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm glad that's what you're focusing on, but I also want to brag a little bit more. You sold in a script that you written before.
Yes.
You also had done movie auditions.
Yeah.
Including Straight Outta Compton.
Yeah. I got pretty close to being Eazy-E and Straight Outta Compton, and that was the audition that I bombed. The last one was really bad.
So I had to brag a little bit right there. But the purpose of this whole project, right, is for me to get to catch up with folks, which has been a blast to do. Also, I'm sitting down with people that I admire, people that I think are doing some dope stuff in the world. So kudos to you because
I appreciate that.
You are definitely doing things that I admire. Definitely proud to have you as a brother and proud of the things that you have done and that you will do. And I'll let you close us out today by just telling us what's in the future for you, what are you working toward, and then any words of advice for the people who may listen, even if it's just me.
Yeah. Really right now, man, I'm just focused on, I really focused on finishing up a few projects that I'm writing. I feel like my time is coming and I feel like I have to be fully prepared for it. So that's what I'm mentally doing now. It's like, okay, I know when God is ready to get me to that next level, it's going to be everything that I've worked my entire life for. I wanted to be a child star. I wanted to be like on all that, and I wanted to be like the third member of Keenan and Kel. Like I wanted to be Keenan, Kel, and Josh. Like I just, I've been wanting this for so long, and I thank God so much that I didn't get it earlier in my life. I would have ruined it. I would have squandered it, and so I have no problem with the fact that God has made me wait. He's made me learn certain things in my life. He's made me learn patience, most of all, which I'm still working on. But I'm just working on getting certain projects done, getting better, and just being prepared for the level that he's like that. Just being prepared for what he has next for me. But the advice I would give people, man, is really, besides putting God first, I would say there's nothing more important. There's nothing more important than being able to look at yourself in the mirror. That's very hard to do. I mean, and it's you could say that's metaphorically, but there's people who I know literally who just can't look at themselves in the mirror because they do not like what they see. Yep. Whatever you have to do to be able to do that, in a healthy, legal way. But just, man, there's nothing that makes me happier than being able to be proud of who I am currently. And that makes all the difference. And so it's like, you could drown yourself in your work. You can drown yourself in people or relationships and all of that. But ultimately, it's going to fall flat if you're not putting God first. and you're not loving yourself the way you would want people, the love you're trying to give to others, if you're not giving it to yourself, it's just useless.
Yeah.
So put God first and do whatever it takes to truly learn to love yourself. And that's a never ending journey, but you got to take the steps. You got to be okay. If losing weight does it, okay, really figure out your body and what works, what doesn't work, and the diet that works for you, and then work out, like do that. If it's learning a skill, learn the skill. If it's helping others, giving back to your community, do that. There's so many ways to do that. It's just, you're not going to be any good to anybody if you're not good to yourself first. You're just not. And that's something I really learned, and it's really it's just really helped me advance personally.
Amen to that. Well,
yeah.
Love you, brother.
Man, I love you too, man. And I'm brag on you for a little bit. Cause I don't know how much, cause you haven't started releasing episodes yet, have you? No, man, so I don't know if people really, I don't know if you said this on other episodes, man, but I don't think you guys know who you're listening to, man. Like, I don't think y'all realize the magnitude of the person that's giving you this content. Words can express how proud I am of you, man.
I appreciate it, man.
Words, I remember one of my proudest moments was going to your high school graduation, because I literally felt like I've done nothing with my life. Before I was like, how is this possible? Like, he was third in his class, but he had like a 4.6 GPA.
Yeah, it was up there.
I didn't even know you could get past a 4.0. I didn't even know that was possible. He was third in his class with a 4.6 GPA. And he was what? He was on the basketball team, football team, track, choir, debate. I'm sitting here like, how are we related? And I remember thinking, because you were a star running back, I remember thinking that you were going to go to some like D1 school and play football, and then you told us you were going to Harvard, and I didn't even know that was on the table. I didn't even know that was a thing that was happening. And so you go to Harvard, you graduate from Harvard, which is another day that like is one of the most proudest moments of my life, which like you were so thankful that I went, but I'm like, I'm not missing this. And then you graduate from Harvard, you're able to, you get married, you have a family, and you've just been able to constantly grow and evolve and just do all of these great things. And now everything you're doing with ministry, man, like I'm going to have to come here and interview you one day for your own show.
Honestly, I was going to ask you next time I'm in town. I would love for you to do that.
I would love to do that, because, man, I don't think you understand how much I brag on you.
Hey, I appreciate that.
I don't think you understand like how much you make me happy that you're my brother. I don't think you understand that, man. And really, I say that as much as I can to all of our siblings, because everybody in our family, they do so many great things. Yeah. Like Ernest, Tanisha, Trey, Sindra, Delvin. They do so many great things. I'm just proud to be a part of this family, man. But I'm proud of you as well. And I just want to say thank you for having me.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure. Thank you for taking time.
Of course. Of course, man.
Well, next time we come to Dallas,
we're gonna flip it. Yeah. And I'm gonna do this for you.
Yeah, cause I need that for the project too. So I would definitely appreciate that, man.
Nah, for sure. I mean, I am the best. That is something I will brag on. I am the best interviewer of all time. I mean, anybody you could think of: Charlie Rose, Sway, Charlamagne the God, Joe Budden. I don't care. Joe Rogan. I'm the best. I'm just not on their level, but I'm better than all of them. So, all
right, we're going to put that to work, man, when we come back.
All right, man. Peace.
Thank you for joining the I'm Just Curious project. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope it leaves you inspired to live curious.